What's up, guys? So I'm down here in Decatur, Alabama, with Brandon McGaffron. He just put on his PGF competition, and we're here at his gym. And while we're here, we wanted to do a video together. You guys have probably seen him on the channel before. But if you guys, by the way, we're going to get into it in just a second. If you want to check out the other half of this video, you can head on over to his channel. It'll be in the description box below. But we're just going to talk about some just random jiu-jitsu stuff. And I wanted to ask him about some of the questions, because you guys send me questions about 10th Planet stuff, like, you know, certain things that maybe either misconceptions or sort of ideas about what 10th Planet is or isn't. And so I wanted to ask a 10th Planet black belt what some of this stuff is or isn't, and so he's gonna answer that stuff for you. So with that said, guys, let's get into the video. Do you have to get your black belt in 10th Planet, do you have to smoke weed with Eddie Bravo?
I don't think you have to, but I think that might help. No, you don't have to, for sure. You definitely don't have to. I know a lot of 10th Planet guys, like, they're already black belts. They don't smoke at all. Like, they don't partake at all. Like real clean living dudes, actually. I know it seems kind of, no way, not in a 10th Planet. Yeah. But
well, I know. It's just the thing is, like, I think like a lot of guys when they saw 10th Planet back in, I mean, even the book back in the day, like, you'd open it up and it was like Essentials for Jiu-Jitsu. It had Eddie Bravo's book, and it had like the little one hitter or whatever.
Dude, the whole thing, the whole intro to Mastering the Rubber Guard, it's like that thick. It's as thick as the book, and it's all about weed propaganda. The whole thing is like weed propaganda. One of the guys was saying earlier, he's like, well, I know there's more to it than that, because I did smoke a joint with Eddie Bravo, and I'm not a black belt, so it's not the only requirement. At least there's that.
So when it comes to rank, like, one of the things that happens a lot of times in jiu-jitsu, right, is like when people have their belts on and stuff, they come in and people get really obsessed with the rank. You know, they'll see some dude who's got a blue, like maybe they're a white belt, and they see a guy with a purple belt and they're like, it's a purple belt. Or maybe the person gets hung up on, when am I going to get promoted, stuff like that. Since you guys don't wear gis and you don't have belts on, I mean, you get ranked, but I mean, I imagine you probably don't make everybody wear a ranked rash guard every night, right?
Some places do. We don't. I mean, it's super laid back at our place. Like, people just kind of come and go as they play. I don't even have like a make sure you show up on time kind of policy. I'm just like, there'll be a test later. Okay. Not a belt test. Not a belt test. But like we're going to roll later. If you didn't pay attention in class, you're going to fail the pop test. You know what I mean? But no, the rank stuff is maybe one of my favorite parts about training no-gi, actually. Even more so than the actual dynamic of the clothing and the gripping and stuff. Is because everybody just kind of comes in, like I am going to wear this to roll later, like a t-shirt and shorts, you know. And so nobody, if you don't know already, you don't look at somebody and go, oh shoot, that guy is higher up the hierarchy than I am. Like that guy, you don't make those connections with somebody being your superior. We just come in and we're like, oh, and what's your name? Oh, you're from Louisville? Okay, cool, man, let's go. How long you been training? Oh shoot, okay.
So in that sense, it's more like kind of like wrestling, where you don't realize that dude's way above you until you start rolling with him. You're like, oh, okay, this dude's good.
This guy's got hands.
Yeah. Okay. But like when you were a white belt, you come in and roll with a purple belt, and they're untouchable. And then you get your purple belt, and now you're thinking, oh snaps, I'm
supposed to be that?
I'm supposed to be that dude. I don't feel any different, you know? So it's that way. So I think you have some of that anxiety based upon rank. You know, for different reasons. It's all dependent upon the person, but I was wondering if that was something that you guys maybe you have a bit of, or if you don't have a bit of because you're not.
I think we have so much less of it. I really do. There's just no time where we line up by rank. Okay. Even at a seminar, you don't line. Just come in, sit down, listen, train, and then we'll roll afterwards. You know, so yeah, and it's a much less big deal, I think, in no-gi. Not that it's not a big deal. People still are like, oh man, I didn't get ranked and that guy did. Yeah. You know, but I don't know. I've almost at times, not almost, I have definitely at times gone, man, maybe I don't want to do ranks anymore. Yeah. You know, because I think like we just get so hung up on it for no reason sometimes. I think it's good to have goals, and it does have like a built-in goal system, which is probably what helped jiu-jitsu stay legitimate for so long, other than something like catch wrestling, where I'm not saying catch wrestling is not legitimate, but most of the practitioners are like not legitimate at this point, because there's just no way to verify who's who and if what you're learning is good. You know, the only way to do that ever is like this. You know?
And actually roll.
And that's what, I mean, that's kind of the number one That's like the #1 sin in 10th Planet, an instructor that doesn't roll with his students. Like that's the thing I've seen Eddie get the most upset about over the years. Not you misrepresented, not like, no, if you're not rolling with your dudes, you're misrepresenting. Like, here's how we find the truth.
Yeah. Well, that's something, because if you see guys like not roll with their students, that's something where you see that in some of the old, like, I've seen it in a couple jiu-jitsu gyms, not as many, but I've seen it in a couple. But you see it a lot of times in traditional, like old school martial arts, where you'd have the guru. He almost like made himself into the guru teacher, where they would show stuff, but they would never actually roll. So there was always this mystique about it, right? Because it's almost like, well, we don't know. We can only talk about it because we've never actually seen him go. But when you roll with your coach and you catch your coach in something, you're like, oh, he's human, or she's human. It's just it's something where. And
man, some people can't let their ego be deteriorated like that in front of somebody. Like I have also seen coaches that were like, if they get tapped, they don't roll with that guy anymore. Like I got a student, I won't drop any names, but I got a student that it's a young lady, but she rolled with her coach and she tapped him.
Oh, nice.
And he won't roll with her anymore.
Oh, wow.
And so they ended up changing gyms over. That ended up turning into a thing, and they ended up leaving.
Very strange.
Coming over here. Yeah, so that's, I don't know why people can't just roll, dude. I don't understand.
Well, I mean, to me,
you're
it's
training
like,
forever. You're a black belt. You don't roll. Like, why are you still training? Like,
well, and if you're coaching someone, if they catch you in a move, that's a good thing, right? Because, like,
think.
well, I thought so. Like, when I used to watch old 80s martial arts movies, like what always happened in the montage, right? Like, like Bloodsport, right? So they're going, and then at the end of it, he tries to hit Jean-Claude. He catches his fist. He's like, oh, you're ready now.
Let's do that. That was a dim mock strike right there in the armpit.
So here's one for you. So a lot of times, like when people like me look at 10th Planet, like I'm not a flexible dude. And I've gotten a lot of messages from people who have sent me messages saying, man, I'm interested in this 10th Planet stuff, Chewy, but do you have to be flexible to learn it? And for you, like, you've been doing 10th Planet for a long time. Do you have to be flexible before you even start messing around with it? Because I mean, like, to look at the lockdown, it looks like you just need to be the super limber dude in the hips, and that's the way that's going to work. So
I think like anything else, the more flexibility that you're capable of, I think that's good.
Okay.
The stronger you are, I think that's good too. The faster you are, that's probably good too. But you don't need to be strong or fast to do jiu-jitsu, right?
That's right.
So the same thing is true about your flexibility. Here's the way Eddie always says to people when they go, oh, well, I can't do rubber guard. You got to be so flexible to do rubber guard. He said, well, if you walked into a Muay Thai school or a Taekwondo school and you saw the coach said, okay, now we're going to kick to the head, and on your first day you couldn't do it, or in your first year you still couldn't do it, you wouldn't go, well, I guess Muay Thai is not for me. I can't kick to the head. No, your coach would go, what are you talking about? Stretch. Here's the stretches you do, and here's the practices you do. And I think that's a great analogy. Like, for some reason it's fun to say, well, 10th Planet don't work, you got to be flexible. But nobody ever says Muay Thai doesn't work, you got to be flexible. Well, and I think this is maybe kind of a problem with jiu-jitsu. Sometimes is because people like look at techniques and they think, because I intellectually know a technique, right? I've seen it and I understand it. I could regurgitate something that somehow, like, maybe it's supposed to be worth something, because in jiu-jitsu what really matters for most of us is, can I use it against someone? I mean, granted, there's a whole teaching element to it and that thing, but we're talking about most of the time we're interested, like, all right, I got this technique, and is it usable in a live situation against someone of comparable skill level? That's kind of our litmus test, right? But the reality is that a lot of times there's things going on that are not intellectual, right? For instance, a lot of times your body has to build up a sensitivity to it from head to toe, because because you know that as well as I do, like when you're like, I remember having this sensation as a coach. I'm moving with someone and like literally before they even move, I can feel their hips shift, and I'm like, I already know what they're doing, because I can feel my body's been there so many times. You get this intelligence within the body that's not up here. It's an intuition it's a
in the body.
Intelligence.
Yeah. And so I think that a lot of times there's a physical intelligence that develops just like the flexibility, right? Your body has to adapt, even the way that our body begins to morph. Right? Because you think about how strong some of our hip flexor muscles are, because we're doing butterfly guard and lifting people up. I remember one of my buddies who's like, he's my business partner, Joe, incredibly strong human being. He'll take 350, put it over his head. Crazy strong to me, right? Squats like 500 plus pounds, whatever.
I'm so weak I don't even know if that's a lot.
Right, it's a lot. You know, but he was watching me roll one day, and I had some guy lifted with a butterfly hook, like a 230-pound dude lifted with a butterfly hook, and I was holding him in air, and he was like, man, if I was to do that, my damn hip flexor would rip off the bone. You know, but again, it's not just, like, even in jiu-jitsu, you could like, people talk about grappler strength.
Yeah.
That's a real thing. Like, your ability to do things that have nothing to do with like your biceps or anything like that, but you develop a strength in your body that then applies itself within that movement. You know, and so just like you're saying, I think, you know, people have to understand, just because you've seen a technique doesn't mean that it's going to work. Just because because you've seen it and you can regurgitate it doesn't mean you know it. Right, exactly.
Like, it doesn't mean you have an understanding of it.
Well, you see it, like, and you could, like, you understand how it works, and you can talk about it, but you don't really know it.
I can even teach it to you.
But you don't know it.
But I don't know it.
Because if you don't know it in the body, in jiu-jitsu, it doesn't really mean much.
It's no mind. Again, I keep going back to what would Eddie say. The way that he says it, it's got to be in your DNA. If you want to play rubber guard, it's got to be in your DNA. So there can't be a time when you don't go to it when the time comes. The body goes. You don't go. The body goes. It's a sensitivity. Yeah, physical intelligence, a knowing. It's like a knowledge beyond knowledge.
I have this sensation that happens sometimes where I'm rolling. This happens in competition sometimes, and even during a good roll, where my body's moving and I'm thinking about what I'm doing after it's already happening. So it's like my body's already going into
behind.
Yeah, like mentally thinking I'm behind, but my body's like muscle memory's way forward, right? So you know, it's like the old Salo quote. You know, you can't think. What does he say?
If you think you're late.
If you're late,
you get tired. If you get tired, you die.
No. He says if you late. If you have to think you late, if you late, you muscle. If you muscle, you tired. If you tire, you die. That's what it was. I was trying to think of it, but he says that, and it's true, because I've literally done arm bars, and I'm falling back for the arm bar in the competition and thinking of, I'm going. Look at me, I'm going for an arm bar.
Look at this.
Like the body's already going, and I'm just kind of the head's along for the ride.
I think that's. I think anybody that is good at a thing is going to feel that way, whether it's jiu-jitsu or whether it's playing the guitar.
Yeah.
Or even something, you know,
because you've been playing music for a long time, right?
Running, yeah.
Well, like one of my buddies years ago, he said that when he plays music, right, he doesn't think about it. He's just like, man, I just know because it feels good. It feels right. And I'm just playing.
I consider it the same skill. I know that sounds crazy. Obviously, there's different muscle memory involved, but it's the same skill. It's a sensitivity. It's a feeling. It's like I don't know. It's almost like accessing the muse.
Well, it's an art. It's an art form.
To me, I'm definitely 90% art and 10% martial in my own practice, at least. Yeah. You know, obviously, like, I've competed a lot, and I understand the martial to a pretty decent degree, a pretty strong degree, and I've trained other arts, and I'm decent at. I got black belts in other arts, so I understand the martial, but I'm called to the art. You know, and so whenever I think about jiu-jitsu, it moves me. Whenever I think about a piece of music, it moves me. Or whenever I play guitar or roll or whatever, it's the same thing. I'm scratching the same itch, you know. So I think that's totally true.
Well, it's like I read up. I was reading this guy who is a jazz musician, and he was talking about the improvisation that goes on in jazz. And
it's rolling.
You're just going. You just feel it. And you just move with it.
And you know, like, going back to muscle memory, there's going to be, having it in your DNA, there's going to be some things that you've drilled it, or you've run across that scenario in your own training so many times that when that scenario appears again, you can't not do it. Your body goes whether you even want to or not. Like, you know, like if somebody like runs up on me in a grocery store, it's like, oh, there's old Brandon, I'm gonna go get him. You know, I'm like, I defend almost on our set base instantly, you know. So you can't not do it when the time comes. If you have it, I don't know, almost like if you have it in your soul, you know, it appears. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, I guess.
I tell my students, your job is to steal from everyone, right? Like, you know, there's a book I read called Great Artists Steal. And when you read biographies of like great artists and great people, a lot of times there were these heavy influences from these people, and then and like you said, they make their own voice, they make their own stuff later on, but in the beginning they're sort of like taking inspiration from all these different sources and they mix it up. And I always like saying it as a stew, right? Like you take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit, then you just mix it up and you make your own stew, your own version of everything that you've remixed, right? Because it's really hard to make something up new, you know. I mean, there's really not a lot new under the sun, right? I mean, you can think about the way that certain things like, for instance, you know, I was talking about in there earlier, stoicism. You know, now you have these guys that have come back and like sort of dusted this stuff off and sort of modernized it the way they expressed it for, you know, the people in 2020, 2015, whatever it is, right? But this stuff's 2,000 years old. We're just remixing. And so a lot of times I think that, you know, for people, like I said, keep an open mind and be willing to sort of remix and sort of take all these influences and make your own thing out of it.
Yeah, I think that's super crucial. I read a book I was reading a book one time about like how to control your voice, right? How to control your voice when you're singing. And the guy was telling a story about one of his students that it was Steven Tyler, actually, from Aerosmith, was one of his, he was the Steven Tyler singing coach.
All right.
And he started working with him real early on in his career because Steven kept blowing his voice out. He kept just messing his throat up because he was trying to sing in a certain way.
Okay.
And so what he said that what he had to do was to teach him to sing like him.
Sing in his own way.
To sing, to set your own voice free in some ways. And so it's really interesting. Like if you try to fit yourself into a preconceived mold, like, oh, this is how it's done, this is how I'm supposed to do it, is the way that this guy does it. Yeah. It's important to study those influences and be influenced by them, but it's also important, at some point, you're gonna have to write your own songs.
Sure. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed the video, me hanging out with Brandon. If you guys want to watch the rest of this video, the other half of this, go down to the description box below. We'll put a link to Brandon's channel. Check it out. He also has a really cool event going on. That's actually why I'm down here in Alabama right now. He had his PGF. I keep wanting to say PGL, but that's like golf or something, isn't it?
Well, I think there was a PGL. I think it was a professional grappling league.
Well, PGF is what it's called. But he put on probably one of the most beautifully like ran competitions I've ever seen in jiu-jitsu in 20 years, right? Because it's like, it was, you know, the light show, it's this whole thing. It was very cool. And so he's been putting on this season where guys have been competing and grappling with each other for, you know, how many weeks?
It was 13 total weeks.
13 total weeks. So it's been almost like a wrestling season where you're just getting tons of competition. So I was here to support my student. But again, definitely check out the other half of this video. And while you're on his channel, check out that PGF grappling organization, because he's going to be doing another season. So whether you're interested in grappling with it, or if you're interested in maybe just watching and following along, because they do live streams, live broadcasts, you can watch it then on Fridays when they have the events. But brother, good seeing you.
Yeah, man.